At exactly 3 a.m., the knocking started again. 3 slow knocks, then silence, then 3 more. Detective Aaron Hayes froze in the darkness of his apartment, staring at the digital clock glowing red beside his bed, his heartbeat slowing into a cold dread he had not felt in years, because this was the same pattern described in the recordings recovered from the Parker family murder house 8 months earlier, the same sounds heard moments before every victim disappeared, and the same knocks the only survivor swore came from something pretending to be human. Rain slammed against the apartment windows as Aaron grabbed the pistol from beneath his pillow and moved toward the front door, his bare feet silent against the wooden floor, his breathing shallow, every instinct screaming at him not to open it, because 2 nights ago, another body had been found near Hollow Creek Forest with its mouth sewn shut and the number 3 carved into the victim's chest. The hallway outside his apartment was empty when he looked through the peephole, but the knocking continued anyway. 3 slow knocks, directly behind him now. Aaron spun around violently, gun raised, but the room was empty except for the flickering television he did not remember turning on. Static hissed across the screen before a blurry image appeared for 1 second. A pale woman standing inside a dark basement, whispering something into the camera while blood dripped down the wall behind her. Then the screen died. Aaron's phone rang immediately. Unknown number. He answered without speaking. A little girl's voice whispered, "He's standing outside your door." The call ended. Another knock echoed through the apartment, louder this time. Aaron ripped open the front door and aimed his weapon into the hallway, but there was nobody there except a small cardboard box sitting on the floor beneath a dim yellow light. Rainwater dripped from it. Trembling slightly, he crouched down and opened it carefully. Inside was an old VHS tape labeled in black marker, 3 a.m. final visit. Beneath it sat a tiny blood-stained shoe belonging to 7-year-old Lily Parker, a child who vanished from the Parker murder house and was never found. Aaron felt his stomach tighten because only the killer could have had this. He rushed back inside, locked every bolt, and inserted the tape into the dusty VHS player he kept from old evidence investigations. Static filled the screen again. Then the footage began. A shaky handheld camera moved through the Parker family home late at night. The timestamp read October 14th, 1998. Aaron remembered the case perfectly. Entire family slaughtered. Father hanging from the ceiling fan. Mother found in the bathtub filled with black water. No sign of Lily. The footage showed the living room first, silent and dark, except for the sound of heavy breathing behind the camera. Then the knocking started. 3 knocks from somewhere deep inside the house. A woman whispered, "Please stop." Another knock. The camera moved toward the basement door. Aaron watched carefully as the person filming slowly opened it. Darkness waited below. Then came the whisper. "Mommy," a little girl's voice. The camera descended the basement stairs 1 step at a time. Aaron could hear his own breathing, now matching the terrified person in the recording. Suddenly, the camera light flickered and revealed bloody handprints covering the basement walls. Hundreds of them. Small handprints. Children's hands. Then, the footage cut violently to a close-up frame of Lily Parker, staring directly into the camera. Her face was pale gray, her eyes completely black, her lips stitched shut with thick thread. Aaron nearly stumbled backward. The screen went black again before white text appeared slowly across it. "He only comes at 3 a.m. The tape ended there. Aaron immediately called Captain Morales at the precinct, but the line went dead halfway through the first sentence. Then every light inside the apartment shut off simultaneously. Darkness swallowed the room. Outside, thunder exploded across the sky. Aaron pulled out his flashlight and swept the beam across the apartment. Nothing. Silence. Then came a whisper, directly beside his ear. "Detective!" Aaron spun around wildly, smashing the flashlight beam into the kitchen doorway, where a tall figure stood motionless in the shadows. Too tall, his head bent unnaturally against the ceiling. Aaron fired instantly. The gunshot deafened the apartment. The figure vanished. Only darkness remained. Police arrived 15 minutes later after neighbors reported the gunshot, but they found no intruder, no footprints, and no evidence except for the VHS tape, which mysteriously contained nothing but static when replayed. Captain Morales looked exhausted as he sat across from Aaron inside the kitchen. "You need sleep," he muttered quietly. Aaron ignored him and placed Lily's tiny shoe on the table. Morales stared at it for several seconds before his expression changed completely. "Where did you get this?" Aaron explained everything. The knocks, the tape, the phone call. Morales Morales became pale. Then he revealed something he had hidden from the department for months. 3 nights earlier, another detective investigating the Hollow Creek murders disappeared from his own home at exactly 3 a.m. No signs of forced entry, no body found, only 3 wet footprints leading into the basement. Aaron demanded to see the crime scene immediately. 30 minutes later, they arrived at the missing detective's house on the edge of town near Hollow Creek Forest. The neighborhood was silent except for distant thunder rolling through the hills. Police tape fluttered violently in the wind as Aaron entered the house with Morales and 2 officers. The smell hit immediately. Rotting water mixed with old blood. The living room lights flickered weakly overhead, while rain tapped against every window like fingers. Aaron noticed family photographs smashed across the floor. Each picture had the eyes scratched out. One officer nervously whispered that local kids believed the house was cursed now because neighbors kept hearing knocking sounds every night after the detective vanished. Morales ordered everyone downstairs toward the basement. The wooden stairs groaned under their weight. Aaron's flashlight beam swept across mold-covered walls and stacks of old boxes until it stopped suddenly on something carved into the concrete floor. A giant number 3 drawn in dried blood. One officer vomited instantly. Aaron moved closer carefully and noticed words written beside it. "He is still hungry." Before anyone could react, the basement light exploded overhead, plunging them into darkness. Then came the knocking. 3 slow knocks from behind the basement wall. Everyone froze. Another knock. Louder. Then, a scream erupted upstairs. The officers ran toward the staircase while Aaron followed with his gun raised. They reached the kitchen and found Officer Daniels standing motionless near the back door, his face white with terror. "I saw someone outside," he whispered. "A little girl." Aaron rushed to the window and felt ice crawl through his veins. Standing in the middle of the rain-soaked backyard was Lily Parker, exactly as she appeared in the VHS tape. Pale skin, black eyes, torn nightgown, soaked with mud. She stared directly at Aaron without blinking. Then she slowly pointed toward the forest behind the house. The officers burst outside immediately, but by the time they reached the yard, she was gone. Only tiny muddy footprints remained leading toward Hollow Creek Forest. Morales wanted to wait for daylight, but Aaron refused because deep inside he knew something terrible was about to happen again. They followed the footprints into the forest under freezing rain and crashing thunder, flashlights cutting through endless darkness between the trees. After nearly 20 minutes, the footprints stopped suddenly beside an abandoned motel hidden deep in the woods, its broken neon sign flickering weakly above the entrance. Night Harvest Motel. Most of the windows were boarded shut, but one room on the second floor glowed faintly red behind torn curtains. Aaron stepped forward slowly, his pulse hammering violently in his chest as the sound echoed again through the forest around them. 3 slow knocks, then silence. Rain poured through the broken motel sign like streams of black oil while Detective Aaron Hayes stood frozen beneath the second floor window, glowing red inside the abandoned Night Harvest Motel, every survival instinct warning him that something inside was waiting for them because the knocking had stopped the moment they arrived and the silence now felt worse than the sound itself. Captain Morales ordered the officers to circle the building while Aaron pushed open the motel entrance with his gun raised, the rusted door screaming loudly into the darkness. The smell inside was unbearable. Mold, dead animals, rotting water, something older beneath it. The lobby looked untouched for decades, covered in dust, except for a trail of wet footprints leading toward the staircase. Tiny footprints. A child's. Aaron followed carefully, while thunder shook the entire building. Halfway up the stairs, he noticed strange messages scratched into the wallpaper with something sharp. He watches at 3 a.m. Don't open the door. She should have stayed buried. One of the officers whispered a prayer under his breath. Room 208 glowed faintly at the end of the hallway, red light leaking beneath the door. Aaron approached slowly, hearing what sounded like muffled crying inside. Morales nodded once. Aaron kicked the door open violently. The room was empty. Just an old television playing static in the corner, and a dining table covered with hundreds of photographs spread across it. Missing children. Dozens of them. Some dated back almost 30 years. Others were recent. Aaron stepped closer and felt cold horror spread through his chest when he recognized Lily Parker in several pictures standing beside different children, always wearing the same dirty white nightgown, always staring directly at the camera with those black, empty eyes. Then Aaron noticed something worse. In the center of the table sat a fresh photograph taken only hours earlier. It showed Aaron himself standing outside his apartment building while someone watched from across the street. On the back were 5 handwritten words: "You opened the door tonight." Suddenly, the television static changed into security camera footage. A basement appeared on the screen. Concrete walls, flickering light. Aaron immediately recognized it as the basement beneath the Parker family house. The timestamp showed live recording. A woman sat tied to a chair in the middle of the room, her face bruised and bleeding. Aaron's blood froze when he realized it was Officer Daniel's wife, Claire. She looked terrified, sobbing into the camera while whispering, "Please help me." Then a figure stepped into view behind her. Tall, thin, face hidden in darkness. The figure slowly leaned close to the camera microphone and whispered in a distorted voice, "Come find her before 3 a.m. The screen cut black instantly. Morales shouted for backup while Aaron sprinted from the motel room. They raced back through the forest toward town as lightning split the sky above them. During the drive, Aaron called every available unit to the Parker house, but nobody answered. Static filled the radio channels instead. Then came the whispering again through the speakers. Multiple voices, children whispering together. "He's awake now." Aaron slammed the radio off. When they reached the Parker property, every police vehicle outside sat abandoned, with lights flashing silently in the rain. Officers were gone, doors left open. No bodies, no blood, just emptiness. Aaron drew his pistol and entered the house carefully with Morales behind him. Water dripped from the ceiling. The power flickered weakly. Then came the knocking from below. Basement. 3 slow knocks. Aaron moved toward the basement door while Morales called desperately for the missing officers. No answer came, only distant crying from downstairs. Aaron opened the basement slowly. The smell of blood hit instantly. They descended carefully into darkness until Aaron's flashlight revealed the concrete floor covered with fresh, muddy footprints and bloody drag marks leading deeper into the basement. Then the beam landed on Claire Daniels tied to the chair exactly like the footage, alive, barely breathing. Aaron rushed forward to untie her, but Morales suddenly grabbed his shoulder hard. "Don't touch her." Aaron looked closer and saw thick fishing wire stretched across Claire's body, connected to a shotgun hidden beneath the chair. One wrong movement would have blown her apart. Aaron carefully disarmed it while Claire sobbed uncontrollably. "He's still here," she whispered repeatedly. "He never leaves." Aaron demanded to know who took her, but she only stared toward the darkness beyond the furnace room. Then came footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps echoing from somewhere deeper underground. Morales raised his weapon. Aaron swept his flashlight toward the sound and revealed a narrow hidden hallway behind the furnace wall that had never appeared on old house blueprints. The dragging footsteps continued below. They entered carefully. The hidden corridor descended underground beneath the house. Concrete walls covered in strange symbols drawn with dried blood. Aaron realized with horror that many names were scratched repeatedly into the walls beside the symbols. Missing children from local cold cases spanning 25 years. Some names had dates beside them. Others simply said, "Taken at 3 a.m. The tunnel finally opened into a massive underground chamber beneath the town itself. Aaron stopped breathing for a moment. Children's toys covered the floor. Rusted beds lined the walls. Old videotapes stacked everywhere. And in the center stood dozens of mannequins wearing the clothing of missing victims. One officer's body hung upside down from the ceiling with the number 3 carved into his forehead. Morales nearly collapsed from shock. Then they heard the videotape recorder clicking on by itself across the room. Aaron approached slowly. Static filled the screen before another recording appeared. This time the camera showed a young Captain Morales standing beside a group of police officers 20 years earlier, outside the same motel in Hollow Creek Forest. Aaron stared in confusion. Morales looked horrified. The footage continued showing officers dragging a screaming man from the motel basement while reporters surrounded them. The man kept yelling the same sentence over and over. "You should have left the door closed." The screen paused suddenly on the man's face. Aaron felt ice spread through his body because the man looked exactly like Captain Morales, younger, but unmistakably him. Aaron turned slowly toward Morales. "What is this?" Morales looked shattered. His hands trembled violently. Then he confessed everything. 22 years earlier, several children disappeared around Hollow Creek Forest. Police eventually discovered a man kidnapping them beneath the Night Harvest Motel. His name was Elias Vane, a deeply disturbed motel owner obsessed with strange rituals involving time, death, and rebirth at exactly 3 a.m. During the raid, officers found hidden tunnels beneath the motel connected to abandoned storm drains under the town. They rescued only 2 children alive. The rest were never found. But during interrogation, Elias kept claiming he was feeding something beneath the town. Then, one night before trial, Elias escaped police custody. 3 officers died trying to stop him. Morales was the only survivor. Aaron demanded why nobody knew this case existed. Morales whispered the answer: because we buried it. According to Morales, the town covered up everything after Elias vanished because panic spread rapidly. Officials blamed random kidnappings instead of a serial killer operating underground for decades. But before disappearing, Elias left one final message written in blood inside his cell: every door opens at 3 a.m. Aaron suddenly remembered the distorted figure from the basement footage. Elias, he whispered. Morales shook his head slowly. No, Elias died years ago. Then every light inside the underground chamber shut off at once. Complete darkness swallowed them. Children began whispering from every direction, laughing softly, crying, begging for help. Aaron spun wildly with his flashlight until the beam landed on one of the mannequins. It had moved closer. Then another moved. Then another. The mannequins slowly surrounded them from the darkness. Claire screamed upstairs somewhere above them. Morales fired his weapon blindly as figures darted between shadows around the chamber. Aaron suddenly saw Lily Parker standing across the room beside a rusted metal door hidden in the wall. She pointed silently toward it before vanishing again. Aaron rushed to the door and pulled it open. A narrow staircase descended deeper underground. Fresh blood covered the steps. Then came the sound that stopped everyone cold. Knocking. 3 slow knocks rising from the darkness below. But this time, something else followed. A human voice. Soft. Wet. Smiling. Welcome back. Aaron Hayes stared into the darkness beneath the hidden staircase, while the voice echoed upward through the underground tunnel, like something rotting inside the walls themselves. And for the first time in his entire career as a detective, he felt true fear, because the voice did not sound fully human. It sounded broken, wet, ancient. The flashlight trembled slightly in his hand as Captain Morales stood beside him, breathing heavily, blood dripping from a cut above his eye, while the mannequins remained motionless around the chamber again as if nothing had happened. Somewhere above them, Claire Daniels continued screaming uncontrollably. Then silence swallowed everything. Aaron descended the staircase first, each step creaking beneath his boots, while the air grew colder with every second. The tunnel below smelled like wet dirt and decaying flesh. The walls narrowed tightly around them until they finally entered another underground room hidden far beneath the town. Aaron's flashlight swept across the darkness and immediately revealed chains hanging from the ceiling. Old hospital beds stained black with dried blood, and shelves filled with hundreds of videotapes, labeled with dates spanning nearly 30 years. But in the center of the room stood the thing that made Morales stop breathing entirely. A wooden chair faced an old television set glowing softly with static. Sitting in the chair was Elias Vane, or what remained of him. His body looked impossibly thin, almost skeletal, beneath a filthy black coat. His pale skin stretched tightly across sharp bones like paper ready to tear apart. One eye was completely white while the other remained dark and focused directly on Aaron. His lips twisted slowly into a smile that revealed blood-covered teeth. "You finally came back," Elias whispered softly. Morales raised his gun instantly and fired 3 times into Elias's chest. The bullet slammed into him hard enough to throw the chair backward. Silence followed. Then Elias slowly sat upright again, smiling wider now. Blood leaked down his chest, but he did not seem to feel pain at all. Aaron stepped backward instinctively. "That's impossible," Morales whispered. Elias began laughing quietly, a sick choking sound echoing around the room. "You buried me beneath the motel," he said calmly, "but you never buried what lives underneath this town." The television suddenly flickered alive beside him, showing grainy footage of children standing in darkness beneath Hollow Creek. Some were missing victims from decades earlier. Others looked disturbingly recent. Aaron noticed Lily Parker among them, staring blankly into the camera. Elias pointed toward the screen. "They knocked because they want to come home." Aaron demanded to know where the missing children were, but Elias only smiled harder. Then he revealed the truth that shattered everything Aaron believed about the case. The children were never randomly abducted. Elias had been selecting victims for years after discovering hidden tunnels beneath Hollow Creek Forest, connected to an abandoned underground government fallout shelter built during the Cold War. According to Elias, strange disappearances and whispers existed there long before he arrived. He claimed something lived deep underground beneath the shelter, something that only appeared at exactly 3 a.m., feeding on fear and grief. At first, Aaron thought Elias was insane, until the old man pointed toward the far side of the room, where dozens of tiny handprints slowly began appearing across the concrete wall by themselves. Wet handprints, fresh blood dripped downward. Then came the whispering again. Children crying softly inside the walls. Morales looked close to collapsing. Elias continued speaking calmly while thunder shook the earth above them. Years earlier, he said, he discovered that the entity beneath Hollow Creek could imitate voices, faces, even dead loved ones. It lured people into darkness through knocking sounds at 3 a.m. The more victims it consumed, the stronger it became. Elias admitted he originally kidnapped children, believing sacrifices would protect the town from it. But eventually the entity changed him. It showed me things, he whispered, with tears forming in his ruined eyes. Things no human should ever see. Aaron noticed movement behind Elias then, figures emerging slowly from the darkness. Children, pale, thin, their mouths stitched shut exactly like Lily Parker in the videotape. They stood silently behind Elias with empty black eyes reflecting the flashlight beam. Morales began backing away in terror. "No," he whispered repeatedly. "This can't be real." Elias suddenly looked directly at Aaron. "It wants you now." The lights exploded instantly. Darkness consumed the underground room. Children began screaming from every direction, while something heavy moved rapidly through the shadows around them. Aaron fired blindly as Morales shouted beside him. Then came a horrible tearing sound, followed by Morales screaming louder than Aaron had ever heard before. The flashlight flickered back on for 1 second. Morales was gone. Blood covered the floor where he had stood. Drag marks disappeared into a tunnel wall. Aaron ran after him desperately through darkness while the whispers grew louder around him. 3 a.m., 3 a.m., 3 a.m. The tunnel twisted endlessly underground until Aaron finally reached a massive steel door hanging open at the end of the passage. Inside waited the abandoned fallout shelter Elias described. Rows of rusted bunk beds stretched into darkness beneath flickering emergency lights. Old government symbols covered the walls. Then Aaron heard Morales crying softly nearby. He followed the sound into the shelter's control room and froze instantly. Morales knelt in the center of the room staring at an old security monitor showing static. Blood streamed from his nose and ears while he whispered to himself repeatedly. "It knows my name." Aaron approached carefully, but Morales suddenly turned around with pure terror in his eyes. "Don't let it wear your face," he whispered. Then his head slammed violently against the wall by itself. Once, twice, again. Blood sprayed across the concrete. Aaron tried pulling him away, but Morales shoved him backward, screaming, "Run!" The light shut off again. Something massive moved behind the darkness. Aaron heard wet footsteps circling slowly around the room. Then a voice spoke directly behind him, using Lily Parker's voice perfectly. "Detective." Aaron turned slowly. Lily stood there smiling now, except her stitched mouth was slowly pulling apart by itself, threads snapping one by one, until her jaw opened impossibly wide, revealing complete darkness inside her mouth, instead of teeth or tongue. Aaron stumbled backward, horrified, as more figures emerged around the room wearing the faces of missing victims. Their bodies twitched unnaturally while whispering together. "Open the door." Then Aaron noticed the final steel door behind them marked with old warning symbols and dozens of bloody handprints. The knocking started again from the other side. 3 slow knocks. The entire shelter trembled violently. Aaron realized with horror that whatever existed beyond that door was real. The victims were not ghosts, they were bait. The thing beneath Hollow Creek had been using them to lure more people underground for decades. Elias appeared suddenly beside Aaron from the darkness, bleeding heavily but still smiling. "It wakes fully at 3 a.m., he whispered. Aaron looked at his watch. 2:59 a.m. 1 minute left. Sirens echoed faintly somewhere above ground as backup finally reached the town, but it was too late. The steel door began bulging outward slowly, like something enormous was pressing against it from the other side. The stitched children backed away silently while staring at Aaron. Elias handed him an old revolver with one bullet remaining. "If the door opens," he whispered, "don't let it take you alive." Then the knocking stopped completely. Silence filled the shelter. Aaron's watch changed to 3 a.m. Every emergency light turned red instantly. The steel door burst inward with a deafening scream of twisting metal. Darkness flooded into the room like living smoke. Aaron saw shapes moving inside it. Faces. Hundreds of faces screaming silently together. Morales was pulled violently into the darkness before Aaron could react, disappearing instantly. Elias began laughing and crying at the same time while walking willingly toward the entity. "I fed you for years," he whispered. "Now take me instead." The darkness swallowed him whole. Aaron ran. He sprinted through collapsing tunnels while screams echoed behind him, underground. The shelter shook violently as lights exploded around him. He climbed the staircase beneath the Parker house and escaped into the storm moments before the entire underground chamber collapsed beneath Hollow Creek. Police found Aaron unconscious near the forest hours later at sunrise. Rescue teams searched for Morales, Elias, and the tunnels for weeks, but found nothing except collapsed earth beneath the motel ruins. Official reports blamed old mining tunnels and hallucinations caused by toxic gas exposure. The case was closed permanently. But Aaron never slept peacefully again, because 3 months later, after moving across the country to escape Hollow Creek forever, he woke suddenly at exactly 3 a.m. inside his new apartment. The knocking had started again. 3 slow knocks, directly outside his door. And then Lily Parker's voice whispered softly through the darkness. "We found you."